So we know in number 1 that they are vertical angles. So if they're vertical angles and they are the same, then that means that x is also what? 112 degrees. Sorry. So you're going to write x equals 112 there on number 1. X equals 112. Okay, number 2. I know that together these two angles have to make how much? 90 degrees. Now, before you start just using your calculator, the hardest part in geometry is setting up equations. Okay? Setting up the problem is the hardest. The algebra is not hard. Setting it up is hard. So what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you write an equation. So I'm going to help show how to write an equation. So we know that x plus 68 has to equal 90. Because essentially you know you need to take 90 and take 68 away from it, right? Mm-hmm. But setting up your equation now when they're easy is going to help you when they get a little bit more complicated. Okay, so you get a point on your homework and your test for setting up the equation and then solving it. So what is 90 minus 68? 22. So in this case, x is 22 degrees. Okay, what about number 3, Brian? What's your formula, not what's your answer?
I was going to tell you that.
Okay.
X plus 124 equals 180 and 56.
No, don't tell me your answer yet. I said just the equation. X plus 124 equals 180 because we know together they make 180 degrees, right? So x plus 124 equals 180. Kara, what'd you get for x? What'd you say? 56? Brian, is that what you had?
Yeah.
Good. X equals 56 degrees. Okay, number 4. Now, on number 4, they're asking us to find a lot of things. Okay? What's going to be the easiest on number 4? James?
Y.
Why? Okay, then the question, WHY, James?
Because their vertical angles are going to measure the same.
Excellent. The vertical angles, we know they're the same. So there isn't really any work to show for this. We just know that y is 43. Once you're finding angles, let's put them back in the diagram because that's going to help us. Okay? Anybody know how we can find x or z? Elvis?
We only have to do one side because the other one's going to be the same.
Okay, good. What's your equation going to be?
Okay.
180.
Chill.
Maybe? I don't know.
You know that these two angles together, we'll use x. These two angles together are going to do what? I'm going to add them together to make 180. Would you agree with that? So x plus 43 equals 180. Which again, you guys know you need to take 180 and subtract 43. But I'm helping you set these equations up because in the future, if you don't know how to do this, it's going to be really difficult. Okay? So 180 minus 43, anyone? What'd you say? 137? So what you said over here? Good. X is 137. So if x is 137, what do we know about z?
It's 137.
It's also 137. There's not much work to show for that, so we're just going to write it. All right, number 5. How do we get started on number 5? Shelley?
Would y be 72 degrees?
Y would be 72. I would agree with that because they're vertical angles. There's not a lot of work to show there. Okay? So y is 72 degrees. So we can write off to the side y is 72. What do we know about z, though? Caitlin?
72 and z is going to equal 90.
Good. 72 and z is going to equal 90, right? Because that's the other side of that 90-degree angle. So z plus 72 has to equal 90 degrees. And so z is how much? 18. Ben, any idea how to find x? Any thoughts on how to find x? What do you know about 43 in x? I'm sorry, what do you know about 72 in x? Hang on. Perfect. 72 plus x equals 180. 72 plus x equals 180. Chris, is that what you're going to say?
Yeah.
Good. So that means x is, what is that, 108? Someone check my math? 108? Yeah.
So I got 108, but basically what I did, I just drew up, and then I knew that this side was 18, so I just added it to 90.
90 and 18, yeah, because it's across from x, right? So you did vertical angles and included those two angles together. That would work as well, yeah. So one of the things in geometry is there are multiple ways to get the same answer, which sometimes drives students crazy, okay? But it's going to be helpful for you as you are all different learners. All right, let's look at number 6. 1 and 2 are vertical angles, which means they're across from each other. If angle 2 is 105, what do we know that angle 1 is? Also 105. Now, it's talking about measurement here. We're not just talking about variables. So we need to make sure that we put the measure of angle 105. I'm sorry. The measure of angle 1 equals 105. Okay? Okay, A and B are complementary angles. What does that mean? Complementary? 90, right? So if A is 42, find the measure of B. So what are we going to do with these two? 90 minus 42, but the step right before that would be 42 plus the measure of angle B. I need you to write this stuff down, please, because you're going to lose points on your test if you don't write the equation. So that's why I'm helping you do that. Okay, make sure you write the equation down so you know you're practicing that. 42 plus the measure of angle B, which is what we don't know, is equal to 90. And then as Charmini said, we're just going to subtract 42, which means the measure of angle B is 48. Sorry, I took it off pretty soon. Let's keep going. I think we're going to skip down a few. Yeah, let's go to number 10. Okay, when they give you stuff like this on number 10, you need to make sure that you are filling in your diagram. All right? So it says measure of angle PQT, and if you are struggling to name your angles, it's giving you the directions. It's saying start at P, go down to Q, and up to T. That's this angle up here. Okay, PQT is 3x plus 47, so let's write that in our diagram. 3x plus 47. If you don't write things in your diagram, we learned this yesterday, if you do not write things in your diagram, you will miss important information. And then SQR is 6x minus 25. SQR, that's the bottom one, right? SQR is 6x plus 25. I'm sorry, minus 25. It's Thursday. Okay, we know that these are vertical angles. It's asking me to find SQR, but before I find SQR, I need to figure out what x is, right? And I know that these are what kind of angles? What kind of angles are these? Vertical, and what do I know about vertical angles? They're the same, so what are we going to do with this, you guys think? Ah, music to my ears. We're going to set them equal to each other. 3x plus 47 equals 6x minus 25. Okay, go ahead and solve for x. Get your x's on one side, get your numbers on the other side. I just want to look at this. If you're having trouble with this algebra part, have a conversation with me after class today so that we can work up these skills a little bit. Someone tell me what you get for x. 24. I hear two people say 24. 24? 24. Okay, we're getting x to be 24. That's not finished, though, because why? Good, we got to plug it back in. So finding the measure of angle SQR. Guys, shh. Finding the measure of angle SQR. Again, make sure you put your little measure symbol, the little M. Yep. So we're putting 6 times 24 minus 25. I'm plugging in 24 for my x value. 6 times 24 minus 25. Anybody with an answer? Kaylin? Anybody agree with 119? 3 of you? I know we're going kind of fast here. 119. So the measure of angle SQR is 119. Okay, we're going to hop down to number 12. Okay, hop down to number 12 with me. Go ahead, as I'm scrolling, go ahead and label your diagram. Sometimes if it's hard to label, like M and J is pretty small section to have to label. So you can also always draw an arrow if you need to. 4x minus 19. So sometimes we get going and we just think, okay, I just am always going to be setting them equal to each other, but that's not the case. These two angles are not vertical angles, right? These two angles form a what? They're supplementary because they form a line. They form a linear pair. You guys see they're adjacent and they make that straight line. Okay? So if they make a line, I know that together they have to make how much? 180. So what's my equation going to be? Someone who has been quiet today. I can find you. Hortensia, I found you. Okay. What's your equation going to be, Hortensia? We know that together they have to make 180. Yeah, exactly. So we're going to add them. So what's that going to be? 8x minus 5 plus what? 4x minus 19. And what's it going to equal? Oh, I see what you're saying. But they have to add up to be 180, right? Yeah. Okay, so that's going to be on the other side of our equal sign is 180. Okay, yep, and then you started simplifying. Good. Go ahead. Is that right? 17? Okay. But are you finished with this problem? No. Again, please make sure while you're doing these that you read what it's asking you to do. It's asking you to find the measure of K in M. So we would plug back in for K in M. So that means 8 times 17 minus 5. That's the measure of angle K in M. What is that? 6, 5, 1, 135 minus 5? 136 minus 5, thank you. So the measure of angle KNM is 131 degrees. Good. Any questions on this one?
We do number 11.
We will, I need to get enough done in the next 8 minutes to help you out with what's going on. Whoa, what is that? Okay, so let's move on to number... I think you guys can do this. Let's go to 18, please. Let's go to 18. We're almost there. Don't give up on me. You guys are doing great. Number 18. Okay. It says if ray UW bisects angle TUV. What does it mean to bisect something? Cut it exactly in half. So what does that mean about these two angles then? They're exactly the same. If you didn't read the directions, you wouldn't have known that. Okay? Directions in geometry are incredibly important. So, before we begin labeling things, I know that because of this word bisect, I'm allowed to automatically mark that these two are congruent. So please do that. In fact, you earn points on your test for marking things congruent because you paid attention to the directions, which means you miss points for not marking them congruent. Okay, it says TUW is 13x minus 5, and WUV is 7x plus 31. Find the value of x. So what are we going to do with these two things? Shane, what do you think we're going to do with these two things? Are we going to add them together? Didn't we mark them congruent? Remember, we made them the same, right? We marked them congruent, so they're the same. So if they're the same, we're going to set them equal to each other, right? If they're the same, that would make sense. Yeah, good. So we're going to set them equal to each other. 13x minus 5 equals 7x plus 31. For the sake of time, we're not going to work this one out. I know you know how to do algebra. Let's go on and do number 20, and we'll finish with number 20 today. Okay. Read, and I want you to label your diagram as you are reading. If EF bisects CEB, we have some congruent angles here. Yep, go ahead and keep solving. Bless you. Good. Solve it out now. Okay, keep going. Fine. Good.
Figure out the measurements and then subtract it.
Okay. No, they're going to equal each other, right? Because that's why we drew those marks. But we're not there yet. We have to deal with what we're working with. Okay. So nope. We erase that plus sign and set them equal to each other. There we go. Oh, okay, good. You're onto something. So we're getting x to be We're on this one, 20. What are you guys getting x to be? 8. Anybody else get 8? 8, 8, 8. Okay. X is 8. If you didn't get 8, just put 8 and we'll come back to it in just a minute. Okay, the problem is asking, though, for angle DEB, which is this guy in here. How are we supposed to get there? Sorry. Would you guys agree, look up here at my diagram, please, that this angle plus this angle plus this angle all make a straight line? Would you guys agree with that? Okay, so if I can plug x in for this angle and this angle here, then I can subtract that from 180, and I'm going to be left with the missing angle. Okay, so we know that x is 8, so let's go ahead and plug x in for 8, or plug 8 in for x. So 7 times 8 is 56. What's 56 plus 21? 77 here. Did anybody else get that? 56 plus 21? Yeah, it's 77. Okay, then over here, 10 times 8 is 80. 80 minus 3, 77. And we really didn't have to plug it in, right? Because we already knew that they were the same. Okay, what's going to be my missing equation? Now to find that missing angle. Who wants to give it to me? John?
The measure of DEB.
Okay, so let me stop you. Instead of writing measure of angle DEB, you can put a y in there. Do not put x because we've already used x, okay? But we could put a y down here for this angle that we don't know. Okay, go ahead. Y plus what? Oh, no, I'm so sorry. Y plus, Kara? Okay, so Kara already added 77 and 77 together. So 77 plus 77 has to equal 180. So y plus, what did we say that is? 154 equals 180. So y is 26. But it's not actually y, right? It's the measure of angle DEB is 26 degrees. That was a loaded one, huh? Measure of angle DEB is 26 degrees. You don't have that written down anywhere? Can you write down the equation?
Right
You don't have it written down like I've asked you to. Oh, sorry, I just erased it. Hang on. I took the 77 and the 77 because I added these two angles together. Because all three of these angles make 180 degrees. Okay? I'll work with you in just a second.